I stood at my front door, staring at my new son-in-law Derek and a notary public on my porch. It had been only 4 days since my daughter Emma's wedding. Derek held a manila folder and wore a smile that didn't reach his eyes. The notary adjusted his glasses nervously. Derek said he needed me to sign some documents about family financial planning. My late wife Catherine died 8 months ago, leaving me $33 million nobody knew about. Standing there, I realized I made the right choice staying silent. I stepped back from the door, my hand still gripping the knob. The morning sun cast long shadows across my porch, and somewhere down the street, a dog barked twice before falling silent. "What documents are you talking about, Derek?" His smile widened, showing too many teeth. "Oh, just some paperwork about family assets. Standard stuff when families merge, you know. Nothing to worry about." I didn't move from the doorway. Derek shifted his weight, the manila folder crinkling in his grip. The notary, a thin man in his 50s with wire-rimmed glasses, studied his shoes like they held the secrets of the universe. "Maybe we could discuss this inside?" Derek's voice carried a edge of impatience now. "It'll just take a few minutes." Against my better judgment, I stepped aside and let them in. My home still smelled faintly of the casseroles and condolence flowers from Catherine's funeral 8 months earlier. I hadn't changed much since she passed. Her reading glasses still sat on the end table by her favorite chair. Her gardening magazine still arrived in the mail. Derek walked straight to my kitchen table like he owned the place and spread his papers across the surface. The notary followed, setting down a leather briefcase with practiced efficiency. I remained standing, arms crossed. "What exactly is this about?" Derek pulled out a chair and sat down without being invited. He gestured to the papers with a flourish. "Like I said, Jay, just some financial planning documents. Now that Emma and I are married, I've been doing some research into family assets. Property records, investment accounts, that sort of thing." My spine stiffened. "You've been researching my finances?" "Our finances," Derek corrected smoothly. "We're family now. And from what I can see, you've got some significant holdings. Property, investments. Catherine did very well for herself, didn't she?" I said nothing. Catherine had indeed done very well. She'd spent 30 years building a real estate development company from nothing. Started with a single rental property and turned it into an empire of commercial buildings, apartment complexes, and shopping centers across 3 states. She was brilliant with numbers, fearless with negotiations, and absolutely ruthless when people tried to cheat her. She was also incredibly private about money. She'd seen too many families torn apart by inheritance fights, too many friendships destroyed by loans that went bad. She made me promise, in those final weeks when the cancer was eating through her, that I would be careful. "Watch who you tell, Jay," she'd said, her hand weak in mine. "Money reveals people's true character. You'll know who to trust and who to keep at a distance. Promise me you'll be smart about this." I'd promised. Derek tapped the papers. "These are power of attorney documents. They'll give me authority to help manage the family assets. Make things easier for everyone. More efficient." The notary shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "Power of attorney?" I repeated slowly. "You want control of my finances." "Not control," Derek said, his tone suggesting I was being difficult. "Partnership. Collaboration. Emma's on board with this. She agrees it makes sense." That stopped me cold. "You discussed this with Emma?" "Of course. We're married. We discuss everything." Derek leaned back in his chair, completely at ease in my kitchen. "She understands that family means sharing resources, helping each other out. She told me about Catherine's success, about the properties and investments. It's time to bring everything together, make sure it's all working for the whole family's benefit." I looked at the papers spread across my table. They were professionally prepared, full of legal language and signature lines. The notary had pulled out his stamp and ink pad, ready to make it all official. Catherine's voice echoed in my memory. "Money reveals character." "I'm not signing anything," I said quietly. Derek's smile faltered. He sat forward. "Jay, be reasonable. This is standard procedure for blended families. There's nothing to blend. My finances are my own." "But Emma's your daughter," Derek said, his voice taking on a pleading quality. "Don't you want to help her? Help us? We're starting our lives together. We could use some support. If Emma needs help, she can come talk to me herself." Derek's expression changed then. The friendly mask slipped, just for a moment, and I saw something cold and calculating underneath. She shouldn't have to beg her own father for what's rightfully hers. "Nothing is rightfully hers yet," I said. "And nothing is rightfully yours at all." The silence that followed felt dangerous. The notary cleared his throat and began quietly packing up his briefcase. He'd clearly sensed the shift in atmosphere. Derek stood abruptly, his chair scraping against my floor. "You know what, Jay? I quit my job 3 weeks ago." "What?" "I quit my job. Because Emma told me about Catherine's estate, about the properties and money. I figured I'd be taken care of by family wealth. That's what families do, right? They take care of each other." My stomach dropped. "You quit your job based on assumptions about my finances?" "Based on what your daughter told me," Derek corrected. He pulled out his phone, swiped through screens, then turned it toward me. "Look, read these." I looked at the screen. Text messages, purportedly from Emma. "Dad's being difficult about money again. He's got millions but acts poor. Mom left him everything, and he's hoarding it. I don't know how to deal with him anymore." My daughter hadn't sent those messages. I knew Emma. She'd never talk about me that way. But seeing the words on Derek's phone, attributed to her, made my chest tight. "Those aren't real," I said. "They're absolutely real," Derek shot back. "Emma's frustrated with you, Jay. She's told me how you've changed since Catherine died, how you've become bitter and controlling." "That's not true, isn't it?" Derek pocketed his phone. "Look, I'm giving you 30 days to come around on this. 30 days to do right by your daughter and her husband. If you don't, I'll make your life very difficult. I know people. I have resources. And I have Emma's ear. You need to leave my house." Derek moved toward the door, then paused. "One more thing. Emma and we've already been making plans. Big plans. Plans that involve family support. If you cut us off, if you refuse to help, it's going to destroy your relationship with your daughter. She'll see you for the selfish man you've become." "Get out," I said, my voice harder than I'd intended. Derek smiled that cold smile again. 30 days, Jay. Think about what matters more, your money or your daughter." He walked out, the notary scurrying behind him like a nervous rabbit. Derek slammed the door hard enough to rattle the pictures on my wall. I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by the silence of my empty house. My hands were shaking. I pulled out my phone and called Emma. It rang 4 times and went to voicemail. "Emma, it's Dad. Derek just left here with some papers he wanted me to sign. We need to talk, honey. Just you and me. Please call me back." I hung up and sat down at my kitchen table, staring at the empty chairs. Catherine's chair at the far end had been empty for 8 months, but somehow it felt even more empty now. I picked up one of the power of attorney documents Derek had left behind and read through it carefully. It was worse than he'd described. If I'd signed this, he would have had complete control over every account, every property, every investment. He could have sold anything, transferred anything, cleaned me out entirely. I thought about Emma. 28 years old, teaching 2nd grade at Lincoln Elementary. She'd always been close to me, especially after Catherine got sick. She'd been there through every hospital visit, every round of chemotherapy, every awful night when we thought we might lose Catherine sooner than we did. But in the 6 months since Emma met Derek, something had changed. She called less, visited less. When she did come by, Derek was always with her, his arm around her shoulders, speaking for her, answering questions before she could. I'd felt uneasy about him from the start, but I'd told myself I was being overprotective. Emma was an adult. She could make her own choices, and she'd seemed happy at the wedding 4 days ago, radiant in her dress, smiling as she said her vows. Now Derek had shown his true face, and he'd already started working to turn my daughter against me. I needed to be smart about this. Catherine's warning echoed again. Money reveals character. Watch who people become when they know about it. I hadn't told anyone about the $33 million. Not Emma, not my sister, not my closest friends. After Catherine's funeral, her lawyer had met with me privately and explained the full extent of her estate. Property's worth $18 million. investment accounts worth another 12 million, cash and other assets, bringing the total to just over 33 million. I'd almost fainted in the lawyer's office. I knew Catherine had done well, but I'd never imagined that kind of wealth. We'd lived comfortably, but not extravagantly. A nice house in a good neighborhood, reliable cars, occasional vacations, nothing flashy, nothing that would make people think we had millions. That was intentional, the lawyer had explained. Catherine believed in keeping a low profile. She'd seen what happened when people knew someone had money. The requests for loans started. The investment opportunities appeared. The distant relatives came calling. She wanted to protect you from that, and she wanted Emma to inherit wealth that would help her, not define her. So I'd kept quiet, paid off the house, put most of the money in conservative investments, lived exactly as I had before, drove the same 10-year-old truck, shopped at the same grocery store, went to the same church on Sundays. And now Derek had come sniffing around, sensing money, demanding access. Thank God I'd kept quiet. If he knew about the 33 million, he'd never stop. He'd bleed me dry and take Emma down with him. I called Emma again. Voicemail again. Emma, I said after the beep. Please come over. Alone. We really need to talk. I love you. I hung up and looked around my empty kitchen. Catherine's coffee mug still hung on its hook by the sink. I'd bought her that mug 15 years ago. A silly thing with a cartoon house on it and the words, "Home is where the heart is." She'd used it every morning until the cancer made even coffee taste wrong. I touched the mug gently, then pulled my hand back. Derek had made a mistake showing his hand so quickly. He'd revealed himself before securing the money. That gave me an advantage. But it also meant he was desperate, and desperate men were dangerous. I had 30 days, he'd said. 30 days before things got worse. I had a feeling they were going to get much worse before they got better. 2 days passed without word from Emma. I called 3 more times. Left messages. Sent texts. Nothing. The silence felt like a physical weight pressing down on my chest. On the 3rd day, a car pulled into my driveway. I looked out the window and saw Emma getting out of the passenger side. My heart lifted. Then Derek emerged from the driver's seat, and my heart sank again. I opened the door before they reached it. Emma looked tired. Dark circles under her eyes, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She was wearing her weekend clothes, jeans, and an old college sweatshirt, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. Derek had his arm around her shoulders. Possessive. Controlling. "Hi, honey," I said, trying to keep my voice warm. "I'm glad you came. I was getting worried." Emma opened her mouth to speak, but Derek cut in. "We need to talk, Jay. Clear the air about some things." "I was hoping to talk to Emma," I said, looking directly at my daughter. "Just the 2 of us. Whatever you need to say to Emma, you can say in front of me," Derek replied. "We're married. No secrets." Emma still wouldn't look at me. She stared at a spot somewhere past my left shoulder. I stepped back and let them in. They walked past me into the living room. Derek sat on the couch and pulled Emma down next to him. His arm stayed around her shoulders. I sat in Catherine's chair, facing them. "Emma," I started, but Derek interrupted again. "Let me make this simple, Jay. You tried to poison Emma against me. You told her I was using her, that I was after money, that I didn't love her. That's not okay. I never said any of those things. You left messages asking her to come over alone." Derek continued, as if I hadn't spoken. "Trying to get her away from me. Trying to turn her against her own husband. What kind of father does that?" "The kind who's concerned," I said. "Derek, you came to my house with legal documents trying to get control of my finances. 4 days after marrying my daughter. That's concerning." "That was a misunderstanding," Derek said smoothly. "I was trying to help, trying to protect family assets. But you took it the wrong way. There was no misunderstanding. You wanted power of attorney." Emma finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, almost defeated. "Dad, why are you being like this?" I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. The Emma I knew was confident, strong-minded, independent. This woman sitting on my couch seemed diminished somehow. Smaller. "Like what, honey? You've changed since Mom died. You've become bitter, suspicious of everyone. You didn't even want me to marry Derek." "That's not true," I protested. "I had concerns, yes, but I wanted you to be happy." "You've never liked me," Derek interjected. "From day one, you've looked at me like I wasn't good enough for Emma. Because I don't come from money. Because I worked in sales instead of some fancy career. You're a snob, Jay. Always have been." My jaw clenched. This was absurd. Derek was rewriting history, painting himself as a victim. "Emma," I said, ignoring Derek entirely, "your mother and I always wanted the best for you. We wanted you to find someone who loved you for who you are, not for anything else." "And I found him," Emma said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Derek loves me. We're building a life together." "Speaking of which," Derek said, leaning forward, "we've already started making some plans. Big plans. We found a house we love, perfect for starting a family. 4 bedrooms, big backyard, great neighborhood." "That's wonderful," I said carefully. "It costs $1,200,000, Derek continued. "We've put down a deposit, $50,000, Emma's entire savings." My stomach turned. $50,000 was everything Emma had saved from 5 years of teaching. She was careful with money, always had been. She must have really wanted this house. "The thing is," Derek said, "we need $300,000 for the down payment, and we need it within 2 weeks, or we lose our deposit." There it was. The real reason for the visit. $300,000, I repeated. "It's a great investment," Derek said quickly. "Property values in that neighborhood are going up. In 5 years, this house will be worth $1,800,000. We'll make a profit. But we need help with the down payment now." "Emma," I said, meeting my daughter's eyes for the first time, "did you agree to this? Putting down your entire savings on a house you can't afford?" She looked away. "Derek loves the house. It's perfect for us. But can you afford it? The mortgage payments on a house that expensive, even with $300,000 down, would be $5,000 or $6,000 a month. On a teacher's salary and Derek's unemployment, that was impossible." "Derek quit his job," Emma said quietly. "You knew about that?" She nodded. "He's going to start his own business. Consulting. Once we're settled in the house." "What kind of consulting?" "Business development," Derek answered. "I have connections. Clients lined up. I'll be making 6 figures within a year." I didn't believe him for a second. But I could see Emma did. Or wanted to. I took a breath. "Emma, I can give you the $50,000 to get your deposit back. Walk away from this deal. Find something more affordable." Derek's arm tightened around Emma's shoulders. "See what he's doing? He's trying to sabotage our future. Our dreams. He doesn't want us to succeed." "That's not true," I said desperately. "I want Emma to be safe. To be smart with money." "You just don't want to help us," Derek snarled. "You'd rather see your daughter struggle than part with a penny of your precious money." Emma stood abruptly. Her eyes were red, filling with tears. "I can't do this. I can't watch my own father try to ruin my marriage, try to ruin my happiness. Emma, please. I need space from you, Dad." She was crying now. Derek was right. "You have changed. You've become someone I don't recognize. Someone who cares more about money than about me." She headed for the door. Derek stood, smirking at me over Emma's shoulder. 2 weeks, Jay. That's all the time you have to reconsider. To decide whether you care about your daughter's future or not." They walked out. The door closed. I heard Derek's car start and drive away. I sat in Catherine's chair, surrounded by silence again. Emma's words echoed in my head. "You've become someone I don't recognize." But I was the same person I'd always been. Derek was the one who'd changed things. Derek was the one manipulating Emma, isolating her, turning her against me. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts. Found the name I was looking for. Frank Morrison. We'd been friends for 40 years. He'd been Catherine's attorney and was now mine. Frank answered on the second ring. "Jay, what's wrong? You sound terrible." "I need your help," I said. "I think my son-in-law is running some kind of con." "Tell me everything," Frank said. So I did. 10 days later, a process server knocked on my door and handed me a thick envelope. I signed for it with a sick feeling in my stomach. Inside was a lawsuit. Derek Callahan versus Jay Henderson, I was being sued for $600,000. I called Frank immediately. He told me to bring the papers to his office. An hour later, I was sitting across from him in his downtown law firm, watching him read through the complaint with growing anger. "This is garbage," Frank said finally. "Pure garbage. He's claiming you made verbal promises to financially support him and Emma? That you promised to pay for a house as a wedding gift?" "I never promised anything like that." "I know." Frank flipped through more pages. "And look at this. Emma signed an affidavit supporting his claims. Says you told her at Christmas that you'd help them buy their first home." I stared at the document. That was Emma's signature. But I'd never said anything of the sort at Christmas. We'd had dinner, exchanged gifts, talked about her teaching job. Nothing about buying houses or making promises. "She's lying," I said. "Or he's lying and she's backing him up." Frank pulled off his reading glasses and rubbed his eyes. "This is a shakedown, Jay. Pure and simple. He's suing you for damages based on fictional promises. Even if you fight this and win, and you will win, it's going to cost you. Legal fees, depositions, court time. This kind of case can drag on for months, even years. Cost you $100,000 or more. Can we get it dismissed? We can try. But judges are hesitant to dismiss cases before discovery. Derek's lawyer will argue that verbal contracts are enforceable, that they need to take depositions to establish what was said and when. It'll be a mess. What about Emma? Can I talk to her?" Frank shook his head. "Not advisable. Anything you say to her could be used against you in the lawsuit. Derek's lawyer will twist your words, claim you're harassing witnesses, or trying to intimidate Emma into changing her story. So I'm supposed to just sit here while my daughter lies about me in court? I know it's hard," Frank said gently, "but we need to be strategic." Over the next few days, word of the lawsuit spread through town. I lived in a small community where everyone knew everyone. 35 years in the same house, same church, same grocery store. People knew me, knew Catherine, knew Emma. But Derek had been busy. He'd been telling people his version of the story. Jay's wealthy but selfish, refusing to help his struggling daughter, broke promises about supporting the young couple. People I'd known for decades started looking at me differently at the post office, at the hardware store. Cool nods instead of warm greetings. Conversations that ended when I approached. Sandra, my neighbor of 20 years, stopped me one morning as I was getting my mail. "Jay," she said carefully, "I don't want to pry, but people are saying things." "What kind of things?" "About Emma. About Derek. About money." She looked uncomfortable. "Is everything okay?" I didn't know what to say. The lawsuit was public record. The gossip was everywhere. "It's complicated, Sandra," I finally said. She touched my arm. "For what it's worth, I've known you since you moved here. You're a good man. Catherine was a good woman. If you're in some kind of trouble, people should know the truth." "I appreciate that," I said. Frank called 3 days later with news. His private investigator had found something. Derek Callahan had been married before and divorced. 2 years ago. The marriage lasted only 8 months. I drove straight to Frank's office. "Tell me everything," I said. Frank pulled out a folder. Derek married a woman named Jennifer in Ohio. She came from a comfortable family, not wealthy but well off. Her father owned a successful plumbing business. Within 3 months of the marriage, Derek started pressuring Jennifer to get money from her family for various business ventures. When her father refused, Derek sued him. For what? Breach of verbal contract. Sound familiar? Derek claimed the father promised to invest in Derek's business ideas. The father fought it initially, but Derek made their lives hell. Showed up at the business, harassed employees, filed complaints with state agencies. Eventually, the father paid Derek $75,000 to drop the lawsuit, and the divorce went through. Derek signed a non-disclosure agreement as part of the settlement. "He's done this before," I said slowly. "This is his pattern." Frank nodded. "And here's the thing. The investigator found hints of at least 2 other similar situations. Different states, different women, same pattern. Quick marriage, demands for money, threats and lawsuits, settlements. He moves around to avoid building a criminal record in any one jurisdiction. Can we use this in court? Maybe. Depends on those non-disclosure agreements. But even if we can't use it directly, It shows us who we're dealing with. This isn't about love or family. It's a con. I need to tell Emma. Jay, Frank said seriously, you can't. Not yet. If you confront Emma with this information, Derek will claim you're harassing them. He could get a restraining order. That would completely cut you off from your daughter. We need to be patient. Gather more evidence. Build a bulletproof case. While I'm being patient, he's destroying my relationship with Emma. I know. But if you move too fast, you could lose her completely. I left Frank's office feeling more trapped than ever. I knew the truth about Derek, but I couldn't tell the one person who needed to hear it most. That evening, I received another letter from Derek's attorney. They were expanding the lawsuit. Now they were claiming emotional distress and adding Catherine's estate to the complaint. According to the new filing, Catherine had promised Derek money before she died, told him to take care of Emma, implied that Derek would be financially supported by the family. It was insane. Derek had never met Catherine. She died 4 months before Emma even met him, but the lie was in court documents now. Part of the public record. More ammunition for Derek's character assassination campaign. I called Frank again. He was furious but unsurprised. This is what he does. He escalates, adds pressure, tries to force a settlement. Most people can't handle the stress and just pay him to go away. I'm not most people, I said. I know. But Jay, I need you to understand what we're up against. This man is smart, manipulative. He's done this successfully before, and he has your daughter believing him. Then we need to outsmart him. We're working on it, Frank assured me. But these things take time. Time was the one thing I felt running out. Every day Emma believed Derek's lies was another day their marriage became more solid, more difficult to undo. Every day was another day Derek could hurt her. I thought about the $33 million sitting in accounts Derek didn't know about. I could end this easily. Pay him off, make him go away. But Catherine's voice stopped me. If you pay, you'll never be free. Men like that always come back for more. She was right. If I gave Derek money now, he'd bleed me forever. And he'd still have Emma. No. I had to be smarter. More patient. I had to let Derek hang himself with his own greed. But patience was getting harder every day. 3 weeks after the lawsuit was filed, I went grocery shopping on a Tuesday afternoon. I came home at 3:30, pulled into my driveway, and immediately knew something was wrong. My back door was hanging open. I sat in my truck, engine idling, staring at that door. I always locked it. Always. Had for 35 years. I called the police before going inside. 2 officers arrived within 10 minutes. Officer Martinez, a woman in her 30s, and Officer Chen, younger, maybe mid-20s. Wait here, Officer Martinez said. We'll clear the house first. I stood on my front lawn, heart pounding, while they went inside with hands on their service weapons. 5 minutes felt like 5 hours. Clear, Officer Martinez called from inside. You can come in now, but don't touch anything. I walked through my front door, and my stomach dropped. The living room looked mostly normal, but my home office was destroyed. Filing cabinets pulled open, papers scattered everywhere. My desk drawers emptied onto the floor. My computer had been moved, the cables disconnected and tangled. Someone was searching for something, Officer Martinez said, pulling out a notepad. Any idea what they wanted? Documents, I said quietly. Financial records. The officers took pictures, dusted for fingerprints, asked questions. How many people have keys to your house? Do you keep cash here? Any enemies? Any ongoing disputes with anyone? I hesitated on that last question. Derek's lawsuit was public knowledge, but I didn't want to make accusations without proof. I'm involved in a legal dispute, I said carefully. With my son-in-law. Officer Martinez looked up sharply. What kind of dispute? He's suing me. Claims I promised him money I never promised. The officers exchanged glances. When did this lawsuit start? About 3 weeks ago. And now someone breaks into your house looking for financial documents, Officer Chen said. That's quite a coincidence. Can you prove your son-in-law was involved? No, I admitted. Officer Martinez walked through my office, stepping carefully around the scattered papers. What kind of financial records do you keep here? Mostly household stuff. Utility bills, insurance papers, tax returns. Nothing about significant assets, investments, property deeds. I keep those in a safety deposit box at my bank. Smart, she said. So whoever broke in didn't find what they wanted. They found something, I said, my voice breaking. Come here. I led them to the living room. The wall where Catherine and I had hung our family photos. Someone had torn pictures out of frames, ripped them in half. Catherine's face was destroyed in every photo. This wasn't just about money. This was personal, vindictive. Officer Martinez put a hand on my shoulder. I'm sorry. We'll do everything we can to find who did this. But I already knew we wouldn't find proof. Derek was too smart to leave evidence. After the police left, I called Sandra next door. She came right over, took one look at the mess, and pulled me into a hug. Who would do this? She asked. I think you know, I said. We cleaned up together, picked up papers, reorganized files, replaced the destroyed photos with copies I found in albums. It took hours. Around 7, Sandra made me dinner. We ate in my kitchen, neither of us saying much. Jay, she said finally, I need to tell you something. I saw Derek's car on our street the afternoon this happened, around 1:30 or 2. I didn't think anything of it at the time. My blood went cold. You saw Derek's car? A blue sedan, right? Honda Accord? I recognized it from when he's been here before. Can you tell the police? She nodded. I'll call them first thing tomorrow. But we both knew seeing his car on the street wasn't proof he'd broken into my house. He could claim he was just driving through the neighborhood, checking on the area for the house he wanted to buy. I barely slept that night. Every sound made me jump. I kept seeing those destroyed photos. Catherine's face torn in half. 2 days later, my phone rang at 7 in the morning. Emma. My heart leaped. Dad? She sounded scared, uncertain. Emma, honey, are you okay? I need to talk to you. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Can we meet? Just you and me? Of course. Anywhere. Anytime. The diner on Route 22. The one by the old mill. Can you be there in an hour? I'll be there in 30 minutes. Come alone. And Dad? Don't tell anyone we're meeting. Especially not Derek. I won't, I promised. I threw on clothes, grabbed my keys, and drove 20 miles to the diner. It was a small place, family-owned, never crowded. I arrived 15 minutes early and took a booth in the back corner, where we could talk privately. Emma walked in 43 minutes after we'd spoken. She looked terrible. Thin, pale, shadows under her eyes like she hadn't slept in weeks. She was wearing a bulky sweater despite the warm weather. She slid into the booth across from me and immediately started crying. Honey, I said, reaching across the table. What's wrong? Everything, she whispered. Everything's wrong. Dad, I'm so scared. Scared of what? She looked around the diner nervously. There were only 2 other customers, an elderly couple near the front, paying no attention to us. Money's been disappearing from our bank account, Emma said. Small amounts at first. $20 here, $50 there. I thought I was just forgetting transactions. But then last week, $5,000 was withdrawn. Cash. I didn't take it out. And when I asked Derek about it, he got so angry. What did he say? That I was imagining things. That I didn't trust him. He made me feel crazy, Dad. Like I was the problem. You're not imagining anything, I said firmly. Emma, there's something you need to know about Derek. She held up a hand. There's more. He's been pressuring me to take out credit cards in my name. Like, a lot of them. Says we need to build credit for the house. But we already have good credit. And he's been getting phone calls at weird hours. 2, 3 in the morning. He takes them outside, says they're work calls. At 3 in the morning? She nodded, wiping tears. And yesterday, I was looking for our insurance papers, and I found documents in Derek's briefcase. Loan applications with my signature on them. But Dad, I never signed those papers. I never even saw them before. He forged your signature? She nodded miserably. I don't know what to do. We're married. I'm supposed to trust him. But something feels really wrong. I reached across the table and took both her hands in mine. Emma, listen to me. Derek has done this before. To other women, other families. He marries women quickly, demands money, threatens lawsuits, then moves on. My lawyer found his history. Her face went white. What? He was married 2 years ago. Same pattern. Sued his father-in-law, got a settlement, divorced, and moved on. There are at least 2 other similar cases. Emma, he's running a con. He targeted you because he thought I had money. But how did he know? Catherine's obituary mentioned her business success. He probably researched us, found property records, made guesses. He's good at this. He's done it before. Emma pulled her hands back, covering her face. Oh God. Oh God. I married him. I defended him to you. I signed that affidavit for his lawsuit. She looked up, eyes desperate. Dad, I'm pregnant. The world stopped. What? I'm 6 weeks pregnant. Derek was so happy when I told him. He said it was perfect timing, that now we were a real family. Emma, I said carefully, are you sure you're pregnant? Did you take a test? Multiple tests. All positive. Did you go to a doctor? Not yet. Derek said we should wait until 12 weeks. That it's safer. A cold certainty settled over me. Derek was lying about the pregnancy. Somehow. But I couldn't figure out how. Before I could say anything else, Derek appeared at our booth. Emma's face drained of all color. Well, Derek said, smiling that cold smile. Isn't this cozy? My wife sneaking around behind my back to meet her father. How did you find us? Emma whispered. I track your phone, baby. For your safety. He looked at me. What lies have you been filling her head with, Jay? The truth, I said. About your past? About Jennifer in Ohio? About the $75,000 settlement? Derek's smile didn't waver. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Emma, Derek said, ignoring me entirely. We need to go. Now. I'm not done talking to my father, Emma said, but her voice was weak. Yes, you are. Derek reached down and took Emma's arm, pulled her out of the booth. Not roughly enough to make a scene, but firmly, possessively. Emma looked back at me as Derek led her toward the door. Her eyes were full of fear and confusion and something else. Regret, maybe. Or goodbye. Derek, I called after them. Emma doesn't have to go with you. Derek stopped at the door, turned back. Actually, she does. Because in about 6 weeks, she's going to be the mother of my child. We're family now, Jay. Real family. And family sticks together. They left. Through the diner window, I watched Derek guide Emma to his car. Watched him open her door and wait while she got in. Watched him walk around and get in the driver's side. As they pulled away, Derek looked back at the diner. Our eyes met through the window. And he smiled. He smiled and lifted his phone to his ear and made a call. Then they were gone. I sat in that booth for 20 minutes, shaking. The waitress came over twice to ask if I was okay. I said I was fine, paid for the coffee Emma never drank, and walked out to my truck. Derek had revealed his final trump card. Emma was trapped now, pregnant, tied to him. Even if she wanted to leave, the baby would connect them forever. He'd have leverage for 18 years, maybe longer. And there was something about that pregnancy that felt wrong. The timing was too perfect. Derek's happiness too calculated. The demand to wait 12 weeks before seeing a doctor too suspicious. But I couldn't prove anything. And Emma was more isolated than ever. I drove home feeling like I'd lost the most important battle of my life. That night, my computer dinged with an email notification. The sender was anonymous. The subject line read, "You need to see this." I almost deleted it as spam, but something made me open it. Inside were attachments. Dozens of them. Documents, photos, records. And as I opened them one by one, I realized someone was handing me the ammunition I needed to destroy Derek Callahan. The anonymous email contained a treasure trove of information. Marriage certificates from 4 different states. Photos of Derek with different women, always at weddings, always looking happy and in love. Diverse records. Settlement agreements. Police reports. Derek's real name was Derek James Callahan, but he'd also used Derek Morrison, James Callahan, and DJ Morrison at various times. He was 34 years old, and he'd been married 4 times in the past 7 years. Each marriage followed the same pattern. Meet a woman, whirlwind courtship, quick wedding, immediate pressure for money from family, threats, lawsuits, manipulation, either a settlement and divorce or abandonment if the family had no money to extract. He'd made over $400,000 total from his schemes. One woman's father lost his small construction business, paying Derek to go away. Another family had to sell their home. A third woman was still paying off debt Derek had accumulated in her name. I printed everything, spread it across my kitchen table, stared at the documentation of Derek's 7-year crime spree. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered cautiously. Hello? A woman's voice. Jay Henderson? Yes. My name is Patricia Lawson. I sent you that email. I sat down heavily. Thank you. But who are you? How did you get this information? I was Derek's second wife, she said. Or second victim, more accurately. I've been tracking him for 3 years now, trying to warn people, but he always moves too fast. By the time I find his next target, he's already married her. Why are you doing this? Because he destroyed my family. My father was a good man. He worked his whole life building a small accounting practice. Derek married me, sued my father for $200,000 based on complete lies, dragged us through court for 8 months. My father had a heart attack from the stress. He survived, but he's never been the same. The legal fees and settlement cost him everything. He had to close his business. Now he lives in a tiny apartment on Social Security. Patricia's voice was thick with emotion. I can't let Derek keep doing this to people, so I track him. I monitor marriage records in different states. I try to warn his new victims before it's too late. You're a little late with Emma, I said. I know. I'm sorry. I only found the marriage record 3 days ago. But at least I found it before he completely destroyed you. Can this evidence be used in court? Some of it, Patricia said. The marriage and divorce records are public. The photos prove pattern of behavior. The settlements might be harder because some have non-disclosure agreements attached. But it shows who Derek really is. My lawyer needs to see this. I have more. One of Derek's other victims, a woman named Angela, is willing to testify. She tried to expose him publicly, and he pushed her down a flight of stairs, broke her arm and 3 ribs. It was ruled an accident, but Angela knows the truth. She's scared, but she's ready to speak up if it means stopping him. Is Derek violent? I asked, thinking of Emma. Mostly psychological and financial abuse, Patricia said. The incident with Angela was the only physical violence I know of, but he's dangerous in other ways. Manipulative. He isolates his victims from their families, makes them dependent on him. By the time they realize what's happening, they're trapped. Emma thinks she's pregnant, I said. There was a long pause. She's not. How do you know? Because Derek pulled the same trick on me. He bought fake positive pregnancy tests online. They're sold to people who want to prank their friends or partners. They always show positive. He had me use 3 of them. I thought I was pregnant for 6 weeks until I went to a doctor and found out the truth. My hands clenched into fists. He's lying to her about a baby. It's his ultimate control tactic. Makes the victim feel obligated to stay. Makes the family feel trapped. Buys him time to extract money before anyone can stop him. I need to tell Emma. You can't. Not yet. If you confront Derek with this information, he'll disappear. He's done it before. He'll take Emma with him, move to another state, change his identity again. You'll never find them. Then what do? You build a criminal case. You go to the police with everything I've sent you. You work with the district attorney. You let the law handle him properly. I thanked Patricia and hung up. Called Frank immediately. He drove to my house that night. We spent 3 hours going through every document, every photo, every piece of evidence. Frank's expression grew darker with each page. This is enough, he said finally. This is more than enough. We take this to the police tomorrow. File criminal charges. Fraud, identity theft, forgery, based on what Emma told you about the loan applications. What if Derek runs? We move fast. We coordinate with the DA's office. Get arrest warrants. Move before he knows what's happening. And Emma? Frank put a hand on my shoulder. We get her away from him. Safely, Legally, we show her the truth about who she married. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Emma, trapped in a house with a con man, believing she was pregnant with his child, isolated from everyone who loved her. The next morning, Frank and I met with Detective Robert Morris from the Fraud Division. He was in his 50s, gray hair, kind eyes, careful manner. He listened to our story, reviewed the documents, asked detailed questions. "This is substantial," Detective Morris said. "But here's the problem. Derek Callahan is married to Emma. Some of the financial actions he's taken, joint bank accounts and such, are legally gray areas between spouses. The forged signatures on loan applications, that's clear fraud, but we'll need Emma's cooperation to prosecute. She gave it to me once," I said. "She told me about the forgeries. She knows something's wrong. But will she testify against her husband?" Detective Morris asked gently. "Especially if she believes she's pregnant with his child?" I explained Patricia's information about the fake pregnancy tests. Detective Morris nodded slowly. "Here's what I can do. I can open an investigation into Derek Callahan based on the pattern of fraud across multiple states. I can coordinate with authorities in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Illinois, where his previous victims are. We can build a case, but it's going to take time." "How much time?" "Weeks. Maybe months. We need to do this right. Get warrants, gather statements, coordinate across jurisdictions." "Derek told me I had 30 days to give him money," I said. "That was 3 weeks ago. He's escalating. The break-in, the lawsuit, isolating Emma. I don't think we have months." Detective Morris looked at Frank. "What about the civil case?" "Ongoing," Frank said. "Court date is set for 6 weeks out. Derek's lawyer is being aggressive, filing motions, demanding discovery. It's a circus." "Use that," Detective Morris suggested. "Let the civil case play out while I investigate the criminal side. Derek thinks he's winning. Let him think that. Overconfident people make mistakes." "But Emma?" I protested. "I understand your concern for your daughter," Detective Morris said. "But if we move too fast, if we spook Derek before we have all our evidence lined up, he could take Emma and disappear. Worse, without a solid case, a judge might give him bail. He'd be out in hours, angry and dangerous, so we wait. We work," Detective Morris corrected, "and we wait for the right moment." Over the next 2 weeks, I felt like I was living in 2 different realities. In one reality, I was being sued by my son-in-law, attending depositions, answering invasive questions about my finances, watching my reputation in the community continue to deteriorate. In the other reality, I was secretly building a criminal case against Derek, working with Detective Morris and Patricia, gathering statements from previous victims, documenting the pattern of fraud. Frank advised me to be careful. Derek's lawyer was fishing during depositions, trying to find out what assets I had. They knew I had more than I'd revealed, but they couldn't find proof. All my major holdings were in trusts and corporate entities Catherine had set up years ago for tax purposes. My name wasn't directly on most of it. Meanwhile, I couldn't reach Emma. She wouldn't return calls or texts. I drove by her apartment twice, but Derek's car was always there, and I didn't want to make things worse. Sandra kept watch from her house, reporting any activity at my place. No more break-ins, but she saw Derek's car drive past several times. Always slow, always looking. Then everything changed. I came home from a deposition on a Thursday afternoon. Frank dropped me off because I was too angry to drive safely. Derek's lawyer had spent 3 hours asking about Catherine's estate, about my employment history, about every asset I'd ever owned. My house was quiet. I made coffee. Sat at my kitchen table. Stared at nothing. My phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. It was a photo of Emma, tied to a chair in a basement, tape across her mouth, tears streaming down her face. The message below said, $3 million. Wire transfer instructions coming in 1 hour. You have 12 hours to complete the transfer. Tell police, and she dies. This is your fault for being greedy. My coffee cup fell from my hand, shattered on the floor, but I didn't hear it. All I could hear was my pulse pounding in my ears. All I could see was Emma's terrified face. Derek had kidnapped my daughter. My hand shook as I called Detective Morris. He answered immediately. "Don't say anything," he said before I could speak. "I just got the same photo sent to me from an anonymous account. We're tracking it now." "He took her," I said. "Derek took Emma." "We don't know that for certain yet," Detective Morris said. "But assume he did. Listen carefully. Do not respond to any messages. Do not agree to pay anything. We're setting up a tactical response right now." "She's my daughter," I said. "If he hurts her." "He won't. This is about money. He needs you alive and paying. Emma is leverage. As long as he thinks he can get paid, he'll keep her safe." "You don't know that." "No," Detective Morris admitted. "I don't. But I know men like Derek Callahan. They're greedy, not violent, not usually." I hung up and immediately called Frank. He was already on his way to my house. I called Patricia. She answered on the first ring. "I heard," she said. "I'm on a conference call with Detective Morris. Jay. Derek used kidnapping threats before. Against me and 2 other women. He never actually hurt anyone. It's psychological warfare. Emma's face in that photo didn't look like psychological warfare. I know. But listen, Derek is predictable. He always follows the same patterns. If this is like before, he'll demand payment, set up a meeting to exchange Emma for money, and that's when the police can grab him. And if this time is different? If he's finally willing to cross that line?" Patricia didn't have an answer. Frank arrived 20 minutes later. We sat in my living room, phones in hand, waiting. Detective Morris called every 15 minutes with updates. They were tracing the photo, tracking Derek's last known location, coordinating with FBI because kidnapping was federal. An hour after the first message, another came through. Wire transfer instructions, a complex series of accounts, cryptocurrency conversions, offshore banking, designed to be untraceable. The message ended with, "You have until 6 a.m. tomorrow. 12 hours. Don't test me." It was 6 p.m. 6 o'clock in the evening, and my daughter had been missing for at least 3 or 4 hours. Derek had probably taken her right after I'd left for my deposition. Detective Morris arrived at my house with 2 other officers. They set up equipment in my dining room. Phones, computers, tracking software. "Here's the plan," Detective Morris said. "You're going to agree to pay. Demand to see Emma first. Set up a meeting location. We'll have officers positioned around the location. When Derek shows up, we grab him. What if he doesn't fall for it?" "He will. He's done this before. He thinks he's smarter than everyone else. That's his weakness." I sent a message back. "I'll pay. But I need to see Emma first. Alive and unharmed." The response came fast. "Tomorrow. 5 a.m. Old Morrison Warehouse on Route 19. Come alone. Bring the money. I see cops, and she dies." Detective Morris studied the message. "Morrison Warehouse. Perfect. Isolated location, lots of cover for our people. We can set up positions tonight." "I'm going," I said. "Of course you are. You're the bait." "What if he shoots me?" "Then I will have severely misjudged Derek Callahan's character," Detective Morris said grimly. "But I don't think he will. He wants the money more than he wants revenge." That wasn't comforting. We spent the night planning. Detective Morris showed me diagrams of the warehouse, explained where officers would be hidden, went over communication signals. I'd wear a wire. Tactical team would be in position an hour before the meet. I was supposed to carry a briefcase with fake money. "Bearer bonds," Detective Morris said, holding up official-looking papers. "These are props we use for operations like this. They look real enough to pass a quick inspection. What if Derek actually knows what real bearer bonds look like? Then we'll have a problem." But most criminals don't. They see official papers with big numbers, and they assume it's real. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emma's face in that photo. Terrified. Helpless. At 3:30 a.m., Detective Morris knocked on my bedroom door. "Time to go." We drove in unmarked cars to a staging area 2 miles from the warehouse. The tactical team was already there, dressed in black, armed with rifles and equipment I couldn't name. Detective Morris fitted me with a wire. Tiny microphone clipped inside my shirt collar, transmitter taped to my lower back. He tested it twice to make sure it worked. "Remember," he said, "keep Derek talking. The longer he talks, the more time we have to position. When you see Emma, say the phrase, "Thank God you're safe." That's our signal to move in. What if something goes wrong? Detective Morris handed me a small device. Looks like a key fob. If things go bad, press this button. We'll come in immediately, safety protocols or not. I took the fake briefcase, got into my truck, and drove to the warehouse alone. The sun wasn't up yet. The road was empty. My headlights cut through the darkness. The Morrison warehouse had been abandoned for 5 years. Used to be a furniture manufacturing plant, but the company went bankrupt, and the building sat empty, slowly rotting. Perfect place for a criminal exchange. I pulled into the gravel parking lot at 4:57 a.m. Derek's blue Honda was already there, parked near the main entrance. No other cars visible. I sat in my truck, engine running, briefcase on the passenger seat, waiting. At exactly 5 a.m., the warehouse door opened. Derek stepped out. He was wearing all black. A ski mask covered his face, but I recognized his build, his stance. He was holding a gun. My blood froze. Derek gestured with the gun. "Come on, old man. Bring the money." I grabbed the briefcase, opened my door, stepped out. The morning air was cold. Somewhere in the distance, a crow cawed. "Where's Emma?" I called. "Inside." Derek's voice was muffled by the mask but unmistakable. "She's fine. Scared but fine. Show me the money first." "I want to see her first." "That's not how this works." Derek raised the gun slightly. "You don't make demands." "I do." "Open the briefcase." "Not until I see Emma." Derek laughed. "You really think you're in control here? You really think you can negotiate? I'm not giving you anything until I know my daughter's alive." For a long moment, Derek didn't move. Then he lowered the gun slightly and turned his head toward the warehouse door. "Bring her out." The door opened again. Emma stumbled out, hands zip-tied in front of her, tape across her mouth. Another figure was behind her, pushing her forward. A man, also masked, also holding a gun. Derek had an accomplice. The tactical briefing hadn't prepared for that. Emma's eyes found mine across the parking lot. She was crying, shaking, clearly terrified. "Satisfied?" Derek asked. "Now show me the money, or I put a bullet in her leg." I opened the briefcase, held it up so he could see the fake bearer bonds inside. Derek walked closer. 5 feet away. 4, 3. Gun still pointed at me. He looked down at the papers, reached in with his free hand, pulled one out, studied it in the dim light. 3 million, I said. "Like you asked. Now let her go." Derek's eyes, visible through the mask's slits, met mine. He smiled. I could see it even through the fabric. "You know what's funny, Jay? I don't actually know how much you have. I've been guessing this whole time. Based on property records, Catherine's business, the way you acted. But you never told anyone the real number, did you?" "Let Emma go." "How much is it, Jay? 5 million? 10? 20? He leaned closer. "How much money are you hiding?" "That's not your concern. Everything about you is my concern now." Derek grabbed my shoulder with his free hand, gun pressed against my chest. "You're going to transfer every penny you have to me. Every account, every property, everything. Or, Emma doesn't just lose a father. She loses her life." Behind Derek, I could see Emma struggling against the man holding her. Her eyes were wild with panic. "Why?" I asked, trying to keep Derek's attention. "Why do this? You could have just divorced Emma, moved on to the next target. Why escalate to kidnapping?" "Because you wouldn't cooperate," Derek hissed. "Because you're stubborn and selfish, and you made this harder than it needed to be. I quit my job for you. I married your daughter for you. I played the game. And you wouldn't even give me a fraction of what you have. I married your daughter for you." The words hung in the cold air. The admission that Emma had never been anything but a mark. "She loved you," I said quietly. "Emma actually loved you." "She's weak," Derek said dismissively. "Easy to manipulate. Believed every lie I told her. The pregnancy, the house, all of it. She's pathetic." Something inside me snapped. Years of patience, of strategic thinking, of holding back. Gone, in an instant. "You're wrong about Emma," I said, my voice cold and hard. She's stronger than both of us. And she's smarter than you think. Derek laughed. Really? Then where is she now? Tied up, crying, helpless. I looked past Derek to Emma. Our eyes met, and I saw something in her expression change. Fear turning to anger. Helplessness turning to determination. Thank God you're safe, I said clearly. The signal. Everything happened at once. Emma threw herself backward, knocking into the man holding her. He stumbled. His gun went off, bullet hitting the ground. Police officers emerged from everywhere. Behind cars, from inside the warehouse, from the tree line, shouting, guns drawn. Derek spun toward Emma, raising his weapon. I grabbed his arm, yanked it upward. The gun fired into the air. We struggled. Derek was younger, but I was desperate. We fell to the ground, rolling across the gravel. The gun skittered away. Tactical officers swarmed us. 3 of them pulled Derek off me, slammed him face down onto the ground, cuffed him. 2 more grabbed the accomplice, who'd dropped his gun and was trying to run. Detective Morris was there, helping me up. You okay? I ignored him and ran to Emma. Officers were cutting the zip ties off her wrists, removing the tape from her mouth. Emma collapsed into my arms, sobbing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You have nothing to be sorry for, I said, holding her tight. Nothing. You're safe now. You're safe. Derek was screaming from the ground. You can't prove anything. This is all a misunderstanding. She came here voluntarily. Detective Morris walked over to him. Derek James Callahan, you're under arrest for kidnapping, extortion, fraud, and about a dozen other charges I'm going to enjoy reading to you. He gestured to the officers. Get him out of here. They dragged Derek to a police car. He was still shouting, still making threats, still convinced he could talk his way out. The accomplice turned out to be a guy Derek had met in a bar, paid $500 to help with what Derek called a prank on his father-in-law. He gave a statement immediately, cooperating fully in exchange for reduced charges. Emma and I sat in the back of an ambulance while paramedics checked her over. She had bruises on her wrists from the zip ties, was dehydrated, in shock, but physically unharmed. When did you know? I asked her. At the diner, she said quietly. When you told me about Derek's past, it all clicked into place. Every lie, every manipulation. I went home and confronted him. She touched her wrist gingerly. He didn't hit me, but he grabbed me, scared me, told me if I ever talked to you again, he'd make sure I regretted it. That's when I knew I had to get away. But he was watching me all the time, tracking my phone. I couldn't escape. So when he took you, he told me it was your fault, that you'd forced him to do this because you wouldn't help us. Said he was going to make you pay for ruining our lives. Emma looked at me with red, exhausted eyes. Dad, I'm so sorry I believed him. I'm sorry I signed that affidavit. I'm sorry I said those horrible things to you. I pulled her close again. None of that matters now. All that matters is, you're safe. Detective Morris came over with an update. They'd searched Derek's apartment and found detailed plans. Maps of my house with my daily routine marked. Schedules of when I left and returned. Notes about Catherine's death and business holdings. Derek had been planning this for over a year. He targeted Emma specifically? I asked. Detective Morris nodded. Found Catherine's obituary online. Researched her business. Saw Emma was single on social media. Engineered a meeting at a coffee shop Emma frequented. Made it look like a chance encounter. The whole relationship was calculated. Emma made a choking sound. I thought he loved me. I know, Detective Morris said gently. That's what he wanted you to think. He's very good at what he does. Did? I corrected. What he did. Past tense. The sun was fully up now. The warehouse parking lot was full of police vehicles, officers taking statements, crime scene texts, photographing everything. Patricia called my phone. I answered on speaker so Emma could hear. Is everyone okay? Patricia asked immediately. We're fine, I said. Derek's in custody. Thank God. Patricia's relief was audible. Jay, the other victims, and I, we're ready to testify. We want to make sure he never does this to anyone else. There's going to be a strong case, I assured her. Detective Morris is coordinating across multiple states. Derek's going away for a long time. Good, Patricia said. He destroyed too many families. It's time for justice. After we hung up, Emma looked at me. How much money do you actually have, Dad? I smiled. Enough. But that's a conversation for another day. When you're ready, the pregnancy was fake. Derek bought false positive tests online. It's a trick he's used before. Emma's face crumpled. I should have known. I should have gone to a doctor right away. He didn't give you a chance. That was part of his control. We sat there as the sun climbed higher, warming the cold morning. Officers continued their work around us. Somewhere in one of the police cars, Derek was presumably still ranting about his rights and demanding a lawyer. What happens now? Emma asked. Now, I said. You heal. We heal. Together. We rebuild what Derek tried to destroy. But I signed legal documents for his lawsuit. I lied in an affidavit. Under duress and manipulation. Frank says those will be thrown out once the criminal charges are filed. You're a victim, Emma, not a co-conspirator. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I feel so stupid. You're not stupid. You're human. Derek is a professional con artist. He's fooled people for years, smarter people than either of us. You didn't fall for it, because I had Catherine's warning in my head, and because I kept the inheritance secret. If Derek had known about the $33 million from the start, he might have played a longer game, might have been more convincing, might have trapped you even worse. You were protecting me by not telling me. I was protecting both of us, though there were times I doubted that choice. Thank God you kept quiet, Emma whispered. Thank God. 6 months later, I stood in a courtroom and watched Derek Callahan get sentenced to 28 years in federal prison. The judge had heard testimony from Patricia, from Angela, from 2 other victims whose names I'd never known before the trial. She'd seen the evidence of forgery, fraud, extortion, kidnapping. She'd listened to Derek's lawyer argue for leniency, claim Derek had mental health issues, suggest he deserved rehabilitation instead of punishment. Then she'd looked at Derek and said, You are a predator. You systematically destroyed families, traumatized women, bankrupted hardworking people for your own greed. The damage you've caused is immeasurable. 28 years in federal prison, no possibility of parole for at least 20 years. Derek had shown no emotion, no remorse, just stared straight ahead, like the world had wronged him. Emma sat next to me in the courtroom. She'd testified during the trial, told her story, faced Derek from the witness stand. She'd been strong, clear, unshakable. The jury had believed every word. Now, as Derek was led away in shackles, Emma reached over and squeezed my hand. It's over, she whispered. It's over, I agreed. But endings are also beginnings. Emma had moved back in with me temporarily after the kidnapping. She'd taken a leave of absence from teaching, spent 3 months in therapy, working through the trauma and manipulation. She'd divorced Derek, though the annulment went through easily once the fraud was proven. She'd also started rebuilding her life. Slowly, carefully, with support. The community had come around once the truth came out. People who'd believed Derek's lies apologized. Sandra organized a neighborhood dinner in our honor. The local paper ran a story about con artists targeting small communities, featuring Emma's bravery in testifying. Frank had gotten Derek's lawsuit dismissed with prejudice, and we'd filed a countersuit for damages. We'd probably never collect anything, but it was important to clear the public record, and I'd finally told Emma about the inheritance. We'd been sitting in my living room on a quiet Sunday afternoon. 6 weeks after the kidnapping, Emma was drinking tea, looking healthier than she had in months. Emma, I said, there's something you need to know about your mother's estate. I know she left you everything, Emma said. That's fine. You two built that life together. It's more than you think. A lot more. How much more? I took a breath. $33 million. Emma's teacup froze halfway to her mouth. What? Catherine was very successful, very wealthy. We kept it quiet because she believed money revealed people's true character. She wanted to protect you, protect us, from people who might take advantage. $33 million, Emma repeated in shock. I explained everything. Catherine's business empire, the properties across 3 states, the investment accounts, the trusts she'd set up. Emma set down her teacup with shaking hands. Derek was right. There was money. Derek was right that money existed. But he was wrong about everything else. This money isn't his. Never was. It's yours. Mine? Catherine set up a trust for you. You'll receive your inheritance when you turn 35. That's 2 years from now. She wanted to give you time to mature, to understand your own values, before you had access to wealth. Why 35? I smiled. She said that's when she finally figured out what mattered in life. Not the money itself, but what you do with it. Who you help. What you build. Emma was quiet for a long time. Then she said, if Derek had known about this from the beginning, he would have married you anyway, played a longer game, been more convincing, maybe trapped you for years before showing his true nature, so you kept it secret to protect me. I kept it secret because your mother was wise enough to know that silence can be a powerful form of protection. Emma looked at me with tears in her eyes. You gave up your relationship with me. Let me hate you. Let the community think you were selfish. All to keep Derek from finding out about the money. I would do it again in a heartbeat. She crossed the room and hugged me tightly. Thank you, Dad, for protecting me even when it cost you everything. You're my daughter. It didn't cost me everything. It saved everything that mattered. Now, 6 months later, Emma was rebuilding her life. She'd returned to teaching. She'd started dating someone new, a man named Brian, who worked as a librarian at the public library. He was kind, quiet, gentle. He didn't know about the family wealth, and I liked him for that. Liked that he saw Emma for who she was, not what she had. I'd gotten to know Brian slowly, watching how he treated Emma, how he talked about his own family, how he handled disagreements. He passed every test Catherine would have given him. Emma and I had dinner together every Sunday night, sometimes at my house, sometimes at her new apartment, sometimes at restaurants. We talked about everything: her therapy, my gardening, her students, my plans for retirement. We never talked about the money unless it was necessary. It existed in the background of our lives, secure and quiet, exactly as Catherine had intended. One Sunday, Emma asked me what I'd learned from everything that happened. I thought about it while I washed dishes, and she dried. I learned that silence isn't weakness, I finally said. Sometimes the things you don't say protect you more than anything you could reveal. Catherine taught me that people's true nature emerges when they think money is within reach. By keeping quiet about the inheritance, I gave Derek enough rope to hang himself. Emma nodded slowly. If you'd told me from the start, he might have pretended to be good for years. Exactly. He would have played the long game. Earned trust. Trapped you even more deeply. By staying silent, I forced him to reveal himself quickly. I rinsed another plate. I also learned that real love means protecting people even when they hate you for it. Those months when you wouldn't talk to me, when you believed his lies, that was the hardest time of my life. But I couldn't defend myself without revealing information that would make everything worse. You were playing the long game too. I was trusting that eventually the truth would come out. That patience would win over impulse. Emma put down her dish towel. What would you say to someone else in a similar situation? Someone whose family member is being manipulated. I thought carefully. Watch how people behave when they think you have nothing to offer them. The people who love you will still be there when all the money in the world couldn't buy their loyalty. The people who are using you will reveal themselves eventually. And if you're the one being manipulated, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't ignore the red flags just because you want to believe in someone. And remember that real love doesn't isolate you from your family. Real love doesn't demand you choose between your partner and everyone else who cares about you. Emma smiled sadly. I ignored a lot of red flags with Derek. We all do sometimes. That's part of being human. The important thing is you recognized the truth eventually and had the courage to get out. We finished the dishes in comfortable silence. Then Emma said, Mom would be proud of you, Dad. How you handled everything. My throat tightened. I hope so. I tried to honor her wisdom. You did more than that. You proved she was right. About people, about money, about patience. I hugged my daughter. We stood in my kitchen, in the house Catherine and I had bought 35 years ago, in the home where we'd raised Emma, where we'd laughed and cried, and built a life together. Derek was in prison. Emma was free. The $33 million was still safe, waiting for Emma when she was ready. And I had my daughter back. That was worth more than all the money in the world. A year after Derek's sentencing, I got a letter from Patricia. She'd been accepted to law school. She was going to specialize in elder abuse and financial exploitation. She wanted to use her experience to help other victims. Angela had published her story online. It went viral. She'd been contacted by dozens of other women who'd been conned by men like Derek. She was starting a support group and advocacy organization. The other victims had received restitution from Derek's seized assets. Not much, but something. A small acknowledgement of the harm he'd caused. And Emma had turned 35. She came to Frank's office with me for the meeting about her trust. Frank explained the details. The properties, the investments, the income streams. Emma listened quietly, asked smart questions, took notes. At the end, she said, "I want to use some of this to help Patricia's law school expenses, and to fund Angela's advocacy organization, and to help the other victims rebuild their lives." "Catherine would have loved that," I said. Emma smiled. "I think I'm finally understanding what Mom meant about money. It's not about having it. It's about what you do with it." Exactly. Emma left Frank's office as a woman of considerable wealth. But she drove the same modest car, wore the same comfortable clothes, taught the same second graders. Nothing changed. Except everything had changed. She was free. She was strong. She understood her own values before wealth could distort them. Catherine's plan had worked perfectly. Now, as I sit in my living room on a quiet evening, I think about everything we went through. The pain, the fear, the uncertainty, Derek's threats, Emma's tears, the kidnapping, the trial. And I think about the decision I made to keep quiet about $33 million. That silence saved my daughter's life. That silence revealed Derek's true character before he could trap Emma permanently. That silence protected wealth that now will help not just Emma, but other victims of men like Derek. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing at all. Let people reveal themselves through their actions. Watch and wait, and protect what matters most. I kept quiet about $33 million. And thank God I did, because that silence taught me something Catherine knew all along. Money doesn't just reveal other people's character, it reveals your own. And the measure of a person isn't what they have, but what they're willing to sacrifice to protect the people they love. Emma is safe. Derek is in prison. Justice was served. And the inheritance Catherine worked 30 years to build is now in the hands of someone who will use it wisely. That's the real ending. Not money, not revenge, not even justice. Family, love, wisdom passed down through generations. That's what silence protected. That's what matters. I'd like to ask you something. Have you ever kept a secret to protect someone you loved? Maybe you couldn't explain why at the time, but you knew that staying quiet was the right choice? Share your experience in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. If this story resonated with you, if it made you think about the power of patience and silence, please hit that like button. And consider subscribing to hear more stories about real-life struggles, hard choices, and the wisdom that comes from surviving difficult times. Share this with someone who might need to hear it, someone facing manipulation in their own life, someone trying to protect a family member, someone who needs to know that patience and strategic thinking can defeat greed and cruelty. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for understanding that sometimes the hardest battles are fought in silence. Thank you for being here. I wish you wisdom in your own decisions, courage when facing difficult people, and the strength to protect what truly matters. Stay safe out there. And remember, silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the strongest weapon you have.